Hey there, chatters. I'm Nat.
And I'm Kat, and welcome to the Crime Chat. I am your forensic femme fatale. Natalie is your true crime addict connoisseur.
We're just two normal girls who are obsessed about dark crimes, evil minds, and occasionally the unknown.
And here is your disclaimer, chatters. The following Crime Chat will contain adult content and some interesting, violent, and kind of criminally related scenarios today. So your listener discretion is advised.
Thick winged liner plus really great hair, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, you've been warned. Yeah. So before we get into today's Crime Chat, Kat, what have you done? You're free.
I'm free while I'm home. I've been relieved of the very big, bulky plastic brace. I do have a compression brace that I ordered from Amazon to wear that he did say, like, when I'm out of the house or going to, I can wear the compression brace.
Right.
Because the big one that they gave me after surgery was like plastic, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I kind of got used to it for 2 months, but so I got that. And feels pretty good, doing pretty good. He said everything looked great. So
Good.
Yeah, going in the right direction. I had a whole lot of time to like catch up on anything, but we have been watching Yellow Jackets. That is a must. There is one more episode left in the season. And right now it's on edge. I'm just like, we went out to dinner with some friends last night, and the bartender's, kind of a friend of ours. And I was, we got to talking about Yellow Jackets, and I was like, what do you think about this last episode? Because, I mean, I can't say too much, but talk about killing off main characters.
Oh,
wow.
No.
Wow.
Really? They're going Game of Thrones on everybody? Oh.
But it's so good.
Is
and
it?
You don't see it coming. Like,
really?
Yes.
Oh,
so,
boy. Oh,
totes
boy.
worth it. Totes worth it. They haven't announced a season 4 yet.
Okay.
So, meh. But I will say next Sunday, season 2 of The Last of Us starts.
Okay.
I'm going to do my best to keep it going with that one. That's really, I haven't really had time to like sit down and watch. I've just in class and teaching, and it's been eventful. No major news other than my son is deployed. He made it to his location, so he'll be gone for 6 months. So this one goes out to you, buddy boy.
Yes. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Definitely.
Cool. How about you?
Let's see. It's funny that you should mention Last of Us because I just downloaded the game to play.
Yeah.
The latest one. Can't wait to start that because that is really good. I played the first one.
You have to tell me how it is. I used to be all about like Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, the Tyson's boxing, like all Nintendo stuff. We did have an Atari growing up. And I've tried doing like sim games. I like sim games.
Me too.
Where is your wife still pregnant?
No, she gave birth.
What did you have?
A boy. His name is Timmy. So thank you. But he's still in the crib. Like he's like a little spot in the crib. But
Are you sleeping okay?
It's really relaxing, those sim games. I'll tell you right now. I just started a new one on Steam called Motel Manager. And it's just
oh my gosh.
It's very repetitive, but you get to decorate each room in like different vibes. So it's creative, but it's very relaxing. I like playing games like Last of Us, but that's a lot of like my anxiety goes up a little bit after playing with something like that. But
yeah, I could see that kind of thing happening. Yeah, if you just want to relax and like unwind, I mean, why not build a farm,
have a kid, get a wife,
have a kid, go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you got to watch Free Guy. I was telling you about the movie Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. You got to watch that. Like you would love it.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's funny but it's so real. Because it's a non-participating player,
NPC, non-playable character.
So he's a non-playable character named Guy who becomes a playable character, but he's only controlled by the AI and not anybody else. And he starts beating the real people who are playing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. I gotta check that out. But it's funny that you should say that because yes, I work a lot. And then when I'm not working, I play a game about working. So,
but it's like I'm fantasizing. It's fine.
Right. I don't know.
When I'm not podcasting, I listen to podcasts.
Right.
When I'm not reading, I write.
True.
When I'm not teaching, I'm in school.
So other than that, there is a new movie coming out that I do want to check out. And it's called The Lady in the Yard. It just came out. It looks very scary.
Did you hear that there's a new Karate Kid?
No.
Ralph Macchio, Jackie Chan, and they're paying tribute to
Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi, yes.
Mhm.
But there's the new Apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the whole thing with Cobra Kai on Netflix and the show and everything going on with that. Well, it's not. I don't think it's like a bleed over, but basically he's kind of in the same thing where like he's teaching people now. But I love it. Jackie Chan. When I saw some of the previews, I was like, oh, it looks really, really good.
I gotta check that out.
Then I think on Apple TV there was another preview I saw that has John Krasinski.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about from The Office.
The lead, the guy with the dark hair.
He's married to Emily Blunt. Yeah. So he's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of the female like character's name who's like the other kind of main character. Mm-hmm. But they're looking for the Fountain of Youth and it's giving me National Treasure vibes.
Ooh.
Like, you know, a whole team of people coming together. I think it's going to be on Apple Plus called The Fountain of Youth. Okay. So, yeah. So those are the two ones that I saw coming up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot coming up.
Yeah. So other than that, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm very boring.
Me too boring. Now.
I'm proud of it.
This is a crime and cosmetics segment that we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be going over one of your favorites, Boy George. Mm. Yes. The icon of the 80s. True. Yeah. We're going to start from his very beginning all the way to today. Mm. So, and it's a ride. It's a ride. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know of the story. I don't know the details, but I am a big time fan of Boy George and Culture Club. And
yes,
they shaped my childhood and my adolescence. Honestly, it was so ahead of the time. So ahead because, you know, back then there were a lot of glam rocks and like rockers like Poison and Motley Crue and stuff. And Boy George definitely brought a little bit more of like femininity to what he was doing. And I remember when I started to put makeup on, I was not looking at pictures of Cindy Crawford. I was looking at pictures of Boy George trying to figure it out, like how he did his eyeshadow. I mean, what an artist.
And we'll talk about the style and like the movement and what influenced him and everything.
Okay, good.
We'll get into all the goods.
Okay, good. Well, you asked me to do an intro on musicians, signature styles, and their link to violence and or murder, which is didn't know there was a link.
Is
apparently there? Yes.
Well,
in a way.
The story today is yes. I know that, but I didn't know if there was anything else like out there.
There is, and a lot of it is very familiar.
Okay.
But some of it's not. So signature style is just a unique and recognizable way a person represents themselves, and especially in their creative work.
Yes.
So for musicians, a signature style can include lyrics, you know, the theme, the language, the tone of their songs. Like I'll Tumble For You. I'm telling you right now, I'll Tumble For You. Once you play that song, it's going to be in your head for a week.
Hold on. Let me get my Alexa nearby. I think we're going to need her.
You're going to need to ask her to play that.
Turn the volume up on this heifer.
What do you prefer to do in your free time? Read, watch TV, work out.
Where is she coming from?
Kill people.
I don't have an answer for that.
She's got nothing.
Okay, so ask her to play I'll Tumble For You.
Alexa, play I'll Tumble For You by Culture Club. Okay, she's frozen. I think I broke Alexa.
Okay. Okay, so when she gets back online, ask her to play that. She's probably calling the FBI at the moment.
I'm joking. Okay.
Okay. Back to the story. All right. So also signature styles are influenced with their sound, their voice, the instruments that they use, the genre that they work in, also their performance, how they act on stage in the videos, during the interviews, all this stuff, you know, the visuals, their clothing, their hair, their album covers, the overall image. And the message, the emotions, or the ideas they consistently share, like rebellion, peace, pain, and power. A musician's signature style helps them set themselves apart from the others. It's what fans recognize and connect with. Sometimes it's crafted on purpose. Other times it naturally reflects their backgrounds or experiences.
Didn't we talk about like alter egos before, like Beyonce is Sasha Fierce, right? Yeah. Or
Garth
I mean,
Brooks, Chris Gaines.
we'll get to David Bowie, but is he Star? What
Is
was
he
his
Stardust?
Yes, yes. We'll get to that.
So in some cases, this personal style can be tied to real life behavior, including violence.
Yeah.
Music isn't just sound, it's an identity. Genres like hip hop and metal are known for their intense energy, bold lyrics, emotional rawness. These styles often come from lived experiences, poverty, trauma, and social tension. But sometimes the line between an artist's persona and their real life actions becomes blurred. This is where law enforcement and the public start to worry. Concerns about music promoting violence goes back decades. In 1989, the FBI sent a letter to NWA's record label. I remember this time.
Yeah.
After they released a song called F the Police. They were accusing the group of encouraging violence against police. It also showed that authorities were beginning to view some of the music as a real world threat, not just art. Now, there was a song I remember that I did not agree with that came out called Smack Your B Up. You remember that song? It was like a techno song. It was at all the clubs. And it was
Alexa,
basically...
play Smack That Bitch Up.
Here's Smack My Up by The Prodigy. On Amazon
Prodigy,
Music.
yeah.
Prodigy. It was definitely a little, aggressive, especially as a woman. So now in the UK, the Metropolitan Police linked drill music, a raw and aggressive style of rap, to a rise of youth stabbings. Police claimed that the lyrics and music videos often glorified violent acts, making them seem exciting and, admirable. In Australia, police express similar worries. Police warns that drill music can promote gang culture and fuel local rivals amongst teens. Some of these concerns have reached courtrooms. In both the US and the UK, prosecutors have used rap lyrics and videos as evidence in trials. Critics argue that this is unfair because they're criminalizing artists and they're almost confusing their performances with like a false confession.
Yeah. But it's also been proven, and you may get to it, but like it's also been proven that there's been artists who write out in their lyrics the crime that they did.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, I was just an artist. Like, this is just a song.
Right, exactly. So some artists take on bold, often violent personas in their music. And in some extreme cases, their actions end up reflecting those personas. For instance, I have a couple that I just pulled. First one, most famous, I think, Tupac and Notorious Big were two of the most famous rappers in the 1990s. Their signature styles were tough, emotional, and deeply tied to the struggles of the street life. Their rivalry went beyond music. Both were murdered, turning their signature styles into tragic symbols of how pride and street loyalty can clash with fame.
I cried when Tupac died.
Yeah.
I was a huge Tupac fan. Yeah.
It's just we spoke about this and
yes, we did. Yeah.
It's just pointless why this happened. So I don't know. Next one. John Lennon, known for his message of peace and love, had a completely different style. After leaving the Beatles, his solo music focused on nonviolence and inner reflection. But even this didn't keep him safe. He was murdered by an obsessed fan in 1980. So like part of a future Crime Chat he's going to be part of it, and it's going to be the white feather theory. So I didn't want to go too far into that, but there's a really interesting spin on this crime.
Is that like Michael Peterson's owl theory?
Ooh, no, that the owl theory. You know something? Or owl. Why are you blaming an owl? Like, come on, you did it. You did it. Okay, so anyway, next one. Varg of Burzum built his identity around dark, radical ideas, anti-religion, Norse mythology, and extreme individualism. His black metal style was intense and uncompromising. In 1993, he murdered fellow musician with 23 stab wounds. He claimed it was in self-defense, but the brutality of the act reflected the violent energy of his public image. You know, that's what he was in his band. But Next one, Tay-K. a teenage rapper from Texas, built his style around rebellion and fearlessness. While on the run for murder charges, he released The Race, a song that bragged about him escaping police and on the run. It went viral, turning him into a symbol of youthful defiance, but it also landed him with 55 years in prison. So, yeah.
OTK.
Mm-hmm. Next one. The Big Lurch was known for hardcore rap. In 2002, while high on PCP, he murdered his roommate and ate part of her body.
Oh my gosh.
You never heard this one? Yeah, this is yeah. His extreme lyrics became real life horror. The case shocked the public and showed how drugs, mental illness, and a violent persona can be a deadly mix. Now, this guy in this Big Lurch, that was his whole thing. His whole thing was like gore in his
like Lurch from Addams Family Lurch.
I wonder, I don't know if there's a connection there, but like his persona musically was like this gory, bloody, like very aggressive. And yeah, there it goes. Another one, Skylar DeLeon, a failed actor who would be a musician, didn't have a strong musical style, but he desperately wanted fame. The hunger led him to murder a couple during a fake yacht sale. His story shows how the case for image and status can turn dark when talent isn't enough to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, law enforcement sees danger in some music. Artists say they're just telling the truth about the world around them. Honestly, both sides have a point. Most musicians use their signature styles to express and not harm.
Mm-hmm.
But when an artist's image become their reality, the consequences can be very serious, even deadly. So like for Big Lurch, his persona was this aggressive, over the top, like, you know, Rob Zombie?
Yeah.
Okay, so he does all those movies, but his persona is this crazy guy. Like, imagine if that leaked into his personal life. Like, that would be a little scary.
And that's what I'm wondering is if there's like a mental illness associated with that. Like, they've become so obsessed, or maybe fans have become so obsessed with what their style is and what their signature is, that they just then turn into it.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, bottom line, music is powerful.
Yes.
Signature style can shape how an artist is seen and sometimes how they act. And even it can lead to murder.
Murder.
So that's all the signature style, violent blood connections.
I saw a meme, I don't know, in the last week or so. It was a guitar pick that was like in copper and it was engraved and it said, "Music is how feelings sound." But also, when you were talking kind of in the beginning, it reminded me of the Fuck the Police thing. It reminded me of Charles Manson and his family, who wrote Death to Pigs and Sharon Tate's House, and like, you know, that whole like message. And he was a musician as well. So
yeah.
Okay, well, so now we're going to talk about murder. Well, there's a slight mention of murder.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about Boy George.
Hey.
As far as we know, he did not commit murder. He's not been convicted. Okay. Boy George is famous as the flamboyant, androgynous lead singer of the 1980s new wave band Culture Club, known for his hits like Karma, 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 Chameleon and Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? These are credited to his real name, George O'Dowd. Culture Club has sold more than 50 million records and, as we'll go over, have proved that this singer was a star to watch. Boy George's unique look for Culture Club was created in collaboration with fashion designers including Sue Clowes and Dexter Wong, and widely mimicked by both male and female fans. His style was based on androgyny, glamour, access, and fusing the different cultural references, often wearing flamboyant makeup and clothing, which became a defining characteristic by the 1980s music and fashion, and he is still considered a big icon of the 1980s era. His excessive styling practices and heavy hair accessories are known to cause traction alopecia, which permanently damaged his hair follicles. Oh. And in the early 90s, it was clear that he had like a receding hairline as a result of his alopecia and started to go bald. On the Graham Norton Show in 2000, George simply said, quote, "I like hats." Now, while he is a fan of the accessory, his oversized hats also have become associated with the star that's part of his persona. George Allen O'Dowd was born in Barnhurst Hospital in Kent, England on June 14, 1961.
He's a Gemini.
Is. He was raised in Eltham and the second of 5 children to his parents, Jerry and Dinah O'Dowd. Jerry was born in England but was of Irish descent, and his mother, Dinah, was born in Dublin. He has 1 older brother, 2 younger brothers, and a younger sister. He also has an older half-brother who his mother gave birth to when she was 18 out of wedlock before she met and married Jerry, his father. She moved to London from Dublin to escape the era's stigma about being an unmarried mother. Yeah. At the age of 6, Boy George was in a family wedding party and got to wear an elaborate outfit with what he called amazing court shoes. Young George loved the whole look, especially the shoes, but when his cousin wore the shoes for another wedding, George apparently had a meltdown. But George's mother knew she had something special in her hands. She called him theatrical, but was also highly strung. George's only complaint of his mother was that she didn't have enough makeup for him to wear. She only wore blue eyeshadow. And there wasn't a lot of money in the household, so George had to go to great lengths to achieve his unique looks throughout the years growing up. And he says he shoplifted from Woolworths and took trousers from like strangers' clotheslines in the neighborhood. Oh, I like that. Sounds like me and a kid. Oh, I like that. I think I'm going to take that. As a middle child, George said that he still suffers from middle child syndrome, which means like you likely feel like an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
He also calls himself the pink sheep of the family. Being flamboyant was his way of standing out in his large male family, but standing out also didn't go very well at school. He didn't fit in. He found the masculine culture very troublesome. And he also liked to battle with his teachers, which really annoyed them. And eventually these confrontations got him kicked out of school. Between the battles with the teachers and his outlandish appearances.
Yeah.
But George, he didn't need school. He had the ultimate mentor, David Bowie. At the age of 11, George found out where David Bowie lived. He put on his most comfortable shoes and walked the many miles to sit outside of David Bowie's house.
Oh, boy.
Now, while a little creepy, I mean, he was 11, still kind of cute. His father, Jerry, get to him in a minute, but he had a very rare act of kindness when he bought George a ticket for David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust concert. And George recalls having no bus fare and walking to and from the concert, but he saw David Bowie in his glam, all dressed up in Ziggy Stardust, made it clear to George what he wanted to do and be in his life. He wanted to be creative and he wanted to be famous. Now, George's mother was also handy with a little sewing machine. Have you ever sewed?
Yes, I know how to sew. I can sew.
I don't.
No? It's very easy.
No, I can sew by hand. Like I could stitch things up, but I don't know how to use a sewing machine. My mom did. She made me some like Halloween costumes growing up, but I don't know how to do it. So Dinah, she was handy, and she once made him a copy of Vivienne Westwood's famous bondage trousers. I don't know what those are. Do you know what those are?
No, those are things that are underneath the big dress, like those little frilly little Bo Peep stuff. Is that what that is?
Maybe.
Gonna need to look it up.
Yeah.
Bondage trousers. God only knows what's gonna come up. They're showing like today's version of it. That's not what I want.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess it just has means of getting to the junk and tying you up is what it looks like.
It looks like it's got it's got like a piece from each leg, has like a belt that goes to the other leg. Like it's almost like
and tie downs.
I didn't know that was a Vivienne Westwood thing. I thought that was a what's that store? The goth one.
Hot Topic?
Hot Topic. That's like a Hot Topic item. All right.
Well, he happened to meet Vivienne Westwood at a disco, and she demanded to know who made them. And when George told her that the designer was his mother, she asked him to tell her she did a good job.
Wow.
It wasn't long after that George's sense of style got him a job. George compares his family history to what he calls, quote, sad Irish song, end quote. His maternal grandmother was taken away from her family at the age of 6 and placed into an industrial school. She was found alone, wandering outside of her home when she was 6, put in the school, which is known to like teach and house neglected, orphaned, or abandoned children. Like they would find these children like roaming around and be like, why, your parents? You don't know? We're going to put you in this school.
That's terrible.
So, yeah. Also, as part of his family history, George's great uncle was executed during the 1921 Irish War of Independence.
Oof. Okay.
Not to mention, George's youngest brother, Gerald, was diagnosed with schizophrenia and was convicted of killing his wife during a paranoia episode.
Oh my God, there's a lot going on there, huh? Wow.
And then lastly, George does describe his father, Jerry, as being a terrible father and husband. Dinah published a memoir in 2007 and recounted the physical and mental abuse that she endured from Jerry. Okay, so following the New Romantic movement of the late 70s and early 80s, have you heard of the New Romantic movement?
No.
We're going to get into it.
Okay.
It is a subculture movement originating in the UK with the London nightclub kind of scene. It began the fashion movement, and George got into it, and that's how basically he established his now well-known eccentric fashion statements. The style was adopted by many British bands, including Duran Duran, A Flock of Seagulls, and of course, Culture Club. These New Romantic followers were heavily influenced by David Bowie, Mark Bolan, and the band Roxy Music. In fact, Boy George has a tattoo of David Bowie on his right arm and one of Mark Bolan on his left arm.
Wow.
Now that's for serious.
Yeah, that's definitely a fan.
In the beginning of 1982, the original movement, this New Romantic movement, had largely dissipated. Although many artists associated with the scenes did continue kind of the same thing with their careers as Boy George did. In 1981, he broke into London's music scene, where fashion designer and music manager Malcolm McLaren asked him to join as a second singer to the new wave band Bow Wow Wow. Boy George's stage name with the group was Lieutenant Lush.
Oh, I love it.
George clashed with Bow Wow Wow lead singer Annabella Luen. She was 16 years old at the time and maybe saw that George's presence was like an ambush to her. But they did play a few gigs together, and George, she felt, took center stage from her because of how he was dressing and everything like that. And when she protested, George is like, all right, I got a plan B. Bassist Mikey Craig started a new band and invited George to be the lead vocalist. Along with Mikey and George, the band included drummer John Moss and guitarist Roy Hay. They originally called themselves Sex Gang Children, which would quickly be abandoned, and actually another band adopted that name. There is a band called Sex Gang Children.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah. Realizing, of course, they had an Irish gay man as the lead singer, a black Briton on bass, a blonde Englishman on guitar and keyboards, and then a Jewish drummer, they came up with the name Culture Club.
Perfect.
At the beginning, George stood out from the other band members in a distinct way. He rarely drank and didn't smoke or use illicit substances then, when he started. The other members weren't afraid of a little partying, but George was like, I'm focused on my music and my personal style, and this is what I'm doing. But as we're going to get into, that did not last. Culture Club first started playing in small gigs, but the punked out audiences weren't very fond of George's style and presentation. And George remembers hearing the crowd shouting insults about his girly outfits. But once he got his first real concert in, things went kind of from bad to worse. The band released 2 singles in May and June of 1982, the first one, White Boy, and the second one, I'm Afraid of Me, though both failed to make it to the pop charts. Then, September 1982, Culture Club released their third single, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? A reggae-influenced number which became one of their biggest hits. The song went to number 1 in the UK in late 1982 and became an international smash, topping the charts in 23 countries. It was number 2 in the US and the top 10 in several more countries. This was followed by the top 5 hit Time in the US and the UK, and Al Tempo For Ya, which reached number 9 in the US. This gave Culture Club the distinction of being the first group since the Beatles to have 3 top 10 hits in the US from a debut album. The debut album was called Kissing to Be Clever. Did you have it? Did you have the album or the cassette?
Yes, of course. I had everything. Yeah. My God, obsessed with him.
Their next album was called Color by Numbers, and it was an enormous success, topping the UK charts and reaching number 2 in the US. The single Church of the Poisoned Mind became a top 10 hit, and of course, Karma Chameleon was an international success, peaking at number 1 in 16 countries and then top 10 in additional countries after that. It was the best-selling single in 1983 in the United Kingdom, where it spent 6 weeks at number 1.
Wow.
As 2 of the biggest androgynous music stars, Boy George and Annie Lennox appeared on the cover of Smash Hits magazine in December of 1983, followed by the cover of Newsweek magazine in January of 1984. The band's third album, Waking Up with the House on Fire, in the UK hit number 2, in the US it was number 26. It was not as big as its predecessors, but it still achieved some chart successes. On November 25th, 1984, George provided a joint lead vocal role on the Band Aid charity single, Do They Know It's Christmas Time at All? He was the second artist when the music started. He was the number 2 artist to sing. It was recorded in Sarmwest Studios in Notting Hill, West London, and it became a Christmas number 1 and best-selling single in 1984. Proceeds from the song were donated to the Feed famine victims in Africa during the 1984 and 85 famine in Ethiopia. However, unlike many of the other bands who performed at Live Aid in 1985, Culture Club was not there.
Oh, that sucks.
But even with all of the success, George had problems with nerves, and it ended in a very bizarre spectacle. The 1985 Rock in Athens Festival. While on stage in Culture Club's performance, George spent the entire concert with his back to the audience. When he did this, all hell broke loose. And that's because I guess he had nerves. Like, he got really, really nervous. Okay. Audience members started to throw plastic bottles filled with water and sand at him. And John Moss, the drummer, threw his drumsticks at the audience. And Boy George kept his attitude, saying, quote, "If I was a bad lady, I would have shown you my ass," end quote. His band members also demanded after that he did face the audience during the next concert. And I get that. Like, you get stage fright, you know. Yeah. As Boy George and Culture Club rose to fame, curiosities piqued the interest of George's sexual orientation. When asked by Joan Rivers in an interview on her show in 1983, "Do you prefer men or women?" George answered, oh. Okay. While he never flatly denied that he was gay, then in a 1985 interview with Barbara Walters, George said that he was bisexual and had various girlfriends as well as boyfriends. He also claimed to have a secret relationship with punk rock singer Kirk Brandon and fellow band member Culture Club drummer John Moss. When it comes to John Moss, it's complicated. The singer-songwriter and ex-drummer had a very tempestuous relationship with the band and was kind of like making its way into the pop world, so we'll kind of get to that in a second. Culture Club dissolved in 1986. In the background, band members struggled with mental health and addiction issues that were compounded by their very quick rise to fame. Shortly after, George entered a treatment facility for his addiction to heroin. After the Culture Club dissolved, George pursued a solo career in 1987. His first album, called Sold, garnered great success in the UK with singles such as Everything I Own, Keep Me in Mind, To Be Reborn, and then the title song, Sold. While his successes continued to rise in the UK, it was a different story in the US. This may have been due in part to the fact that Boy George was prohibited by US authorities from traveling to the United States for several years because of his British drug charges and, therefore, unable to promote in America. Yeah, George did score his first US Top 40 solo hit with the single Live My Life. It reached number 40 on the Top 40 from the soundtrack to the film Hiding Out. I don't know that song.
No.
In 1989, Culture Club won a Brit Award for the Best British Group, which George accepted on the band's behalf because they had been dissolved. Held at the Royal Albert Hall in London, the award was presented by a comedian, Frankie Howard, to Boy George, where two things happened. First, Boy George got it in his mind that because the presenter was gay, that the show was not taking Culture Club seriously. And he was rude and sarcastic to Frankie Howard, but years later he did apologize. And then the second thing that happened is when Boy George accepted the award, Andy Bell of Erasure, the band Erasure, kissed Boy George on stage, getting cheers from the crowd, with Bell saying that it was an act in protest against Section 28. Now, Section 28 was a legal provision introduced by Margaret Thatcher's conservative government that prohibited the promotion of homosexuality by local authorities such as like schools. In all, Boy George released 9 studio albums, 5 compilation albums, 48 singles, continuing to garner awards for his music and performing in some of the world's biggest stages. He also explored other creative avenues like DJing, mixed media art, writing books, and designing clothes. From March 1990 to April of 1991, George presented a weekly chat and music show at the Power Station satellite channel called Blue Radio. In 1992, he had a hit with Pet Shop Boys, producing the song The Crying Game from the hit movie The Crying Game.
Okay, okay, not to interrupt your story, but I have a little confession here. Have you ever seen that movie?
Such a long time ago, but I kind of want to watch it again because I think I have a different perspective.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So when I watched that movie, the actress, the girl that he was chasing, the lead actress.
Yeah.
You know, the story in it is that she was trans. Okay. That was the Crying Game. Like that was if you listen to the lyrics in the song, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
Mind you, when I watched that movie, I had no idea. What a beautiful actress. Like I'm sitting there going, wow, she's gorgeous. Da, da, da. And when it came about I was like, no, that's special effects. There's no way. That is a gorgeous woman. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's the same actor. They played Ra in Stargate as a boy.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's not like trans. The actor's not trans, but
he was in the movie.
In the movie. Oh my God. First of all, boy, girl, doesn't matter. The actor is absolutely gorgeous.
Fergus or Jude?
I don't know. The young one. I don't know. But what a beautiful actor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I'm looking now, because like on the cast and everything, this was 1992.
Yeah.
33 years ago.
But then again, I'll admit it now. When RuPaul first came out with Shantae, the song, I had no idea RuPaul was a drag queen.
Laverne Cox. You know who that is? I didn't know that either. You don't know who Laverne Cox is? Okay. She's been in...
Oh, wait. Yes. Orange is the New Black. Yeah. Yes. Another one. I didn't know. Well, no, I knew of that actress, but RuPaul is a drag queen. RuPaul's not trans.
Right.
But RuPaul, when he came on the scene, I was like, what a gorgeous woman. And then he showed up in an interview and dressed as a man. I'm like, wait a minute.
Bald in a suit. And he's a beautiful man.
Totally mind fucked me because I'm sitting there going, what? What's going on? It doesn't matter with me. But I'm like, I was totally convinced RuPaul was a woman. Yeah. So, yeah. Either way, I was just blown away by the beauty.
I remember when I first watched Dirty Dancing, I had no idea there was a rape and abortion thing in there. So...
Right? And we know a lot now, man.
Yes, we do. Okay, sorry, spoiler alert. You didn't know that. So The Crying Game reached number 22 in the UK singles chart and number 15 in the US Billboard Hot 100. Larry Flick from the Billboard complimented Boy George's, quote, genius reading of the song. Dave Sholin from the Gavin Report commented, quote, it's been said again and again that all any performer needs is the right material to have it, and Boy George is just the right singer to resurrect this song.
Yes.
In his 1995 autobiography, this was his first autobiography, it was called Take It Like a Man. Have you ever seen it or read it?
No. Okay. Is it good?
It's a UK bestseller.
Ooh.
And Boy George, in this book, he said he was in fact gay, not bisexual, confessing his relationships with, as I said before, punk rock singer Kirk Brandon and Culture Club drummer John Moss. He said that with many of his songs that he wrote for Culture Club, they were about his relationship with John Moss. The two often fought, but it all came to head when John invited George to meet his family. His family had no idea that the two were dating. So John's mom was like, George, can you go eat with the servants and like not eat with our family? Oh my God. Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Also following the release of the autobiography, Kirk Brandon sued Boy George for libel for claiming that they had a love affair. George did win the court case, and Kirk Brandon was ordered to pay £200,000 to Virgin Records, EMI Virgin Music, and the book publisher in costs. Kirk did declare bankruptcy after this, and then Boy George ended up paying £20,000 in legal fees.
Oh.
Yeah. So George's second career as a notable DJ started at Philip Salon's new nightclub called Planets, and that's located in London's Piccadilly. In the 1990s, he came to the attention of rave house performer Fantasia, who asked him to mix one of the discs on their 2 volumes in their new compilation series called Fantasia, The House Collection 2. This compilation was a success in the UK, and it went gold.
Wow.
At the same time, while developing his career as a DJ, George adopted a macrobiotic diet in which he had been attempting to follow for several years since 1988. In 2001, he published the Karma Cookbook, a microbiotic cookbook co-written by Dragana Brown, whom Boy George met in 1986. I had no idea he wrote a cookbook.
No, I'm going to have to order that.
Macrobiotic diet.
Wow.
Now, still in the public eye by the 2000s, George starred in the London musical called Taboo. Have you heard of the musical?
No.
No? It's based on the New Romantic Movement. And I want to say I read something that said he wrote part of it.
Okay.
But it based on the New Romantic Movement that was so heavily influenced him and that era.
Mm-hmm.
He did not play himself in this play, which I thought was interesting. But he opted to take the persona of an Australian performer called Lee Bowery. For this, George was nominated for a Tony Award for Best Musical Score, and Taboo was highly successful in London's West End, ran for 2 years, and received 4 Laurence Olivier Award nominations. They tried to do it in the US. They tried to adopt that and put it on Broadway. Mm-hmm. It was very short-lived. It was heavily altered, produced by Rosie O'Donnell, and it ran, they only did 100 performances of it before they cut it.
Oh, it's a shame.
Which is sad. Yeah. In 2002, George released You Can Never Be Too Straight, an unplugged collection of rare and lesser-known acoustic works. Then in 2003, George hosted a weekly show on London radio station LBC 97.3 for 6 months. Oh, get this. He also wrote the foreword for a feng shui book called Practical Feng Shui by Simon G. Brown that was published in 1998. It's crazy. He also appeared as a guest on British television shows such as The Kumars at Number 42 and The Friday Night Project. In 2005, George released a second autobiography called Straight, which it kind of picked up where Take It Like a Man ended, like a second version or like a series kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, he also announced that there was another album that was going to be coming out with the same name, Straight, for mid-2005, but it was actually never released. A little unknown fact that I was not aware of, in addition to many of the unknown facts, is that Boy George co-wrote the 2005 hit You're Beautiful by James Blunt.
Kidding me.
You're beautiful.
You know something? James Blunt kind of sounds like Boy George in a way.
Yeah.
The same, like they have the same style. And I love James Blunt.
Yeah. Just thought that was kind of interesting. Another reggaeton-oriented extended play album was planned for August of 2006, but again, it was not released. He did, however, in late 2006, early 2007, push out a couple of tracks to his YouTube account, his 3 MySpace pages, and then he did put some on an official website as well. In 2007, he toured as a DJ, visiting many venues around the world, including Perth and Sydney, Australia, and Dubai, which is interesting for Dubai. I mean, Dubai probably is made up of more non-Emirates than actual Emirates, and the people who are actually Emirates in the UAE are the rich people, but it'd be interesting to see Boy George performing over there when it's not really accepted in that culture.
In Dubai? Dubai is very, like, I have friends...
Well, Dubai's very westernized. Yeah. Yeah, it's very westernized, and I felt like even walking around, like you would see short skirts, and then you would see complete distachas on the women. Like it would just be from one range to the next. Very westernized, and there's a lot of things that happen in Dubai, a lot of things in the pop culture and that kind of thing. But it just for 20 years ago, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you're right. 20 years ago.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
In April of 2008, the Biography Channel featured a documentary on the life of Boy George. George participated also in Retrofest, held in Scotland in 2008, and a 30-date UK tour took place in October and November of 2008. Now, after taking some serious efforts at recovery in 2008, Boy George struggled with his sobriety. And as of 2012, Boy George has credited his practice and kind of for his sobriety to the Nichiren Buddhism and chanting the Namu Myoho Renge Kyo for his newfound spiritual strength to remain sober.
Okay.
All power to you,
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to why this time was such a drastic change. In 2012, George's appearances included the Melbourne International Arts Festival in October, both featured as a guest DJ and also performing with Anthony Hegarty in the festival's presentations of Swan Lights, the Museum of Modern Art's Musical Work Commission, which only had been performed one night previously at Radio City Music Hall in New York. So it seemed like a big deal. Like only one other time it had been performed, and he did it in Australia. Boy George said in 2013 he was quote unquote quite drunk when his head was shaved and tattooed. Have you seen the pictures of his tattoos on his head?
No. Oh boy.
He said when he stopped drinking alcohol, he lost the desire to have further tattoos on his head and he found it too painful.
Yeah.
He had to be drunk apparently to get tattoos on his head.
I'm surprised they did it while he was drunk. Normally you bleed more.
He's Boy fucking George.
I know. But normally you bleed more. Your blood is a little
blood thin. Yeah. Now, in June by 2013, a new song was released called Coming Home. Mikey Craig, a former bandmate in Culture Club, co-wrote the song with Boy George. It was written during a songwriting session for his album, This Is What I Do, which was then released in October of 2013. And that was his first album in 18 years.
Wow.
By 2014, Boy George had suffered from a hemorrhaged polyp on his vocal cords. Do you remember this?
No.
And it resulted a cancellation of a Culture Club reunion tour. In 2015, BBC 4 showed Boy George and the Culture Club from Karma to Calamity, a movie about a 2014 reunion, the album, the planned UK-US tour, but several of the dates in Canada, UK, and the US were canceled because of his hemorrhaged polyp that was found. Following the months resting his voice and spending sometimes days in total silence, he gave up coffee, he was practicing vocal exercises, and he recovered without needing surgery, and was also very surprised that his vocal range had become an octave lower than it was before after this. And he describes it as, quote, kind of rich tenor, and it was suitable for singing a little bit of rock, end quote. January 2016, George joined the 5th series of The Voice UK, replacing Tom Jones as a mentor. He returned to the show for The Voice Australia for the 7th season in 2018, 8th season in 2019, and that 8th season, his protege actually won the show. He returned for the 9th season in 2022, but did not return for the 10th season and was replaced by Jessica Mauboy. I don't know who that is. On March 2nd and March 26th of 2020, through his YouTube channel, Boy George respectively released as videos 2 new solo songs, one called Clouds and the other one called Isolation. And this was from his forthcoming album called Geminis Don't Read the Manual.
It's so true. So true. Give me pictures.
Which had a due date to be released later in 2020, but it was postponed. On April 6th, on his own record label called BGP's Boy George Presents, he released the song Isolation Limited Edition, 2-track CD single, including the title track and a new song called Spatial Awareness Meets the Boy Uptown Dub. And this is a mix of tracks called Clouds. Okay, November 2022, Boy George appeared as a contestant on the 22nd UK series, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Have you ever heard of that?
No, this UK though. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
we don't get that channel.
No, but I lived there for 3 years, and if it's a 22nd edition, it would have been in 2000. I was there. I don't remember it. During his appearance on the show, George expressed discomfort about appearing with the former UK Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, mentioning that his mother had been in the hospital while the country was under a COVID-19 lockdown. George said that he would have withdrawn from the show had his mother died in the hospital. George then said Hancock was, quote, slimy and slippery, and later told Hancock he found it difficult to separate the politician from the person. He had a very difficult time, apparently, on this show.
Wow.
A third memoir came out called Karma, My Autobiography. This was published in the UK in November of 2023 and followed by a US publication in January of 2024. In a review of the book, The Guardian wrote, "This is George O'Dowd in all his exhausting glory." Now, his quite successful career throughout the last 4 decades has been remarkable, but often is overshadowed by his wrongdoings. And now to put the crime in Crime and Cosmetics. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, by the late 1980s, Boy George had been struggling with heroin addiction for several years, as I mentioned earlier. He attempted to perform at concerts while he was under the influence, and he also started to get addicted to other drugs. In an effort to save his life, George's younger brother, David, made an appearance on a UK national television show and discussed George's drug habit, in which George publicly at that point in time had been denying.
Oh, no.
But David was asking for help, you need help.
Oh, so he publicly did that?
Yeah. In 1986, keyboardist Michael Radusky was found dead of a heroin overdose in George's London home.
Oh,
Then,
no.
that same fucking year, 2 more friends died. George's
Oh,
friend
God.
Mark Baltier and the other friend Mark Golding, both again of an overdose. So there's 3 friends in 1986 that all died of an overdose.
Oh, boy.
After these tragedies, law enforcement raided his London home looking for illicit substances. Now, George apparently was not home at the time, but they took 5 of his friends, including his brother Kevin, into custody. This raid was called Operation Culture.
Okay.
It was the 80s, I mean.
Yeah.
Now, authorities wanted to interview George. He wasn't home at the time of the raid, but eventually discovered that George had reached out to Virgin Records' Richard Branson and asked Richard Branson for help. Branson's advice was put yourself into treatment. And that treatment was actually in Richard Branson's mansion.
Oh, boy.
Weird. Like, he's in treatment, like isolated in his mansion, right? He's in treatment, but he's there. It was like,
Weird.
But authorities did delay actually interviewing George until his treatment ended.
Mm-hmm.
But troubles with his addictions did not end there. On October 7, 2005, George was arrested in Manhattan on suspicion of cocaine possession and falsely reporting a burglary. Do you remember this?
No.
No?
No.
Boy George denied that the drugs were his.
Oh.
In court on February 1st, 2006, the cocaine possession charge was dropped, but George did plead guilty to falsely reporting burglary. He was sentenced to 5 days of community service, fined $1,000, and ordered to attend a drug rehabilitation program. See, that was February. By June of 2006, the Manhattan judge issued a warrant for his arrest after he failed to appear in court.
Oh, no.
And it was a court that his lawyer asked for, and it was a hearing about changing a sentence for the false burglary report. So the judge had a warrant out for his arrest. And apparently his lawyer told him, you don't have to come.
What?
I told him not to appear at that hearing because all it was basically asking to change his sentence. So that was in June. In August, George did report to the New York City Department of Sanitation for his court-ordered community service. I've got a couple pictures from that. As a result of the intense media coverage, he was allowed to finish his community service inside the sanitation department grounds. George was also doing interviews in New Zealand to promote an upcoming reunion tour with Culture Club, which I mentioned before, and things got a little heated. An interviewer asked him about his trouble with the law, and George became angry and stormed off the set of the interview. Walking off of the set was only the beginning. The American tour, which was planned for July-August of 2008, had been canceled because he had been denied access to the United States for a visa pending a London court case scheduled for November of 2008. So they said, you know what, you're facing charges. Sorry, access denied.
Yeah.
So he had to cancel his tour. So for this incident, what the November 2008 court case was about, he was arrested and charged in April 2007 for assault and false imprisonment of Audrun Carlson, a Norwegian model and male escort who initially stood in for a photography session with George. Now, Audrun Carlson claimed that he had handcuffed him to a wall fixture and Boy George beat him with a metal chain. Now, George did admit that he handcuffed him, but he never beat him. In his defense, George's counsel said that the mitigating factor to the charges was due to the effects of his long-term drug use.
No. Excuse. It's an excuse. Nobody ties people up because of that.
No.
You're making people who are really suffering look bad. Like, no, that's not okay.
No. He was convicted December 5th, 2008. And then January 16th, 2009, he was sentenced to 15 months in prison.
He went to prison?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
He was initially incarcerated at Her Majesty's Prison Pentonville in London, and then was transferred to Her Majesty's Prison High Point North in Suffolk.
Was he ever duped? What was it, like knighted?
He was offered. I want to say he was offered it, but he denied it. I don't remember now.
I wonder if because he was offered that, I wonder if she took leniency on him and put him in a fancier jail.
I don't know. He was a model inmate, Her Majesty's. Well, that's what they're all called. They're called Her Majesty's because everything belongs to the Queen. Well, now the King, but Queen Elizabeth. He was given early release and he served 4 months, but on May 11, 2009, he was released and required to wear an ankle monitor and submit to curfew for the remainder of his sentence. That was 15 years. In December 2009, while he was on release from prison, George made the request to the probation service that he be allowed to appear on the 7th series of Celebrity Big Brother, which was going to be broadcasted in the UK. His request was denied, and the barrister representing the probation service said that George's participation would pose a high level of risk to the service's reputation. Like it would give us a black eye if we let you do this because you're a celebrity. Yeah. And he argued that public confidence in the criminal justice system would be undermined if George earned a lucrative sum of money while he's on probation wearing an ankle bracelet. Yeah. Just in order to promote his status as a celebrity. I totally get that.
Yeah, it would be a mockery of the system. No, he's getting punished right now.
Well, his stint in prison and the debacle with the Norwegian model became a terrifying wake-up call. Mm. George must have seen that the root of all of his problems came down to one thing, substance abuse. He decided then and there to give it all up. He threw in drinking for good measure. Now clean and sober, George had a plan to get back into the spotlight. Boy George is living in London. He's renting a home after he sold his home that he owned for £17 million, which is like $32 million in Hampstead. Yeah. This year he is touring with Culture Club and has several performances scheduled for the UK, Germany, and Denmark, and even has a stint in the Broadway musical Moulin Rouge. And that is your Boy George.
Okay. I'm jealous that he's not coming to the U.S. for this tour. I would totally
I think he already did this year. I think so.
I'm not a concert goer. I don't like concerts. I do not like them. But unless I know every word to every song, and he's one of them. Like, I would sit there and just sing. Him, Bruce Springsteen. You know, I just sit there and sing.
So he had a timeless summer tour in Australia in January this year. Mm-hmm. He's going to Germany in March and June. Well, in March and going in June, and then in Denmark in June 21st. Yeah, I guess maybe not the U.S. He does not have any upcoming tour dates for 2025, but he does have 2 upcoming concerts in the UK, one in Leicestershire and one in Saltash.
Okay.
Not in the U.S.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Kat. Although he's gone through, it's like a roller coaster in his life.
Yeah.
You know, he's a creative mind, and creative minds are impacted differently in so many different areas of life. So,
and I did read something also that says he suffers from depression, but I couldn't quite find where in his life, or if it's a continuous thing, which is quite possible. He's been through a lot, but even some of the more recent pictures that I've seen of him, he looks the same as he did in 1982. Without the hair, obviously, but.
God bless him. You know what?
Yeah.
Other than for this Norwegian model, which stay away from those Norwegian models, Boy George. But
that was bad news. Like,
that was bad news.
You couldn't. You tie somebody up. It's like kidnapping, false imprisonment, and then beating him with a chain. And I'm wondering if that had to do with like any BDSM type of things where
could be. Well,
safe word.
Yeah, and it could have been kind of consensual up until maybe the model wasn't safe anymore. Unless he wanted to leave and Boy George said no.
Right,
so we don't know that, but still, he did put himself at risk, and we don't know if he was on drugs at the time. So, but I'm glad to see that he is better now and that he's doing what he loves, and he's doing what we all love when he does. But yeah.
Apparently has a cookbook. We'll see what else he comes out with.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I love Boy George. I'm telling you, he shaped who I am today. Okay. Leaving. I'm not going to chain somebody up, but I'm just saying.
Okay, Natalie.
His look, him in the 80s. Thank you, Kat, for that. That was great.
You're welcome.
Well, chatters, for more information on this case, please check out After That Crime Chat, only available on Patreon.
And don't forget to follow us, Crime Chat with Nat Kat, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. See what we got going on, and keep your eyes peeled and your ears open for a pop-up announcement.
Yes. Remember, Crime Chat with Nat Kat. When you become a VIP chatter to our Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, behind the scenes, bloopers, free merch, and check out some merch in the works.
And be sure to check out our next episode coming next week.
The next Crime Chat is going to blow Kat's mind. Because I'm going to challenge Kat's big brain. Now,
this is mush up in there.
So you do not want to miss the chatters. It's going to be fun.
See you next time.